Hi everyone. Our book of the week this week is called My Place. It's by Nadia Wheatley and Donna Rawlins. I've decided that I'm going to read it this week on an easel because I want you to be really able to see the detail in the pictures because we're going to use this book as the basis for a piece of our own writing about our place. You might notice up the top here too that this book was the winner in 1988 of the Children's Book Council of Australia Book of the Year. So it's another one of those special Book Week books. "1988. My name's Laura, and this is my place. I turned 10 last week. Our house is the one with the flag on the window. Tony says it shows we're on Aboriginal land, but I think it means the colour of the earth back home. Mum and Dad live here too, and Terry, and Lorraine, and Auntie Bev, and Tony, and Diane, and their baby Dean. He's so cute. He's my nephew. We come from Burke, but Dad thought that there'd be more jobs in the city. This is me and Gully. I have to keep her on a lead because she chases cars. She comes from Burke too, and I guess she thinks that they're sheep. This is a map of my place. We've got a McDonald's right on the corner. In the McDonald's yard, there's a big tree. Here it is on the map. And whenever I sit in it, it always makes me feel good. There's a canal down the bottom of the street, and Mum said it must have been a creek once. It's too dirty to swim in, but Tony made me a tin canoe, and now some of the other kids are making them too. If you tip over and go in, the water tastes yucky, and your parents go wild. For my birthday, Mum said we could have tea at McDonald's. We sat in the outside bit under the tree, and it felt just like home. So you've got this double page in your pack this week, so you can keep looking at this one and looking at how the My Place book is set out. We're actually going to go back in time now. I want to see if you can work out how many years we've gone back in time. Laura is living in this house in 1988. "1978. How many years back in time have we gone? If you said 10, you were right. This is my place, and I'm Mike. I'm nearly 7. I live with Mum and Dad and Yaya and Auntie Sophia. Yaya's my grandmother, but I call her that because she's Greek. I don't speak very much Greek, but I kind of always understand what she's saying. We have Easter lunch in the backyard under the grapevine. There's roast lamb and salad, and of course I get chocolate eggs. But we have red real eggs too, and we have a competition about cracking them. I'm the best at it. This is me and Whiskers. He sneaks in and sleeps on my bed. And this is a map of my place. When you're up at the top of the big tree, I remember that from Laura's map, and a jet goes over, you feel as if you're going to fall out. Mum wants to move because of all the noise, but I like aeroplanes and trucks and stuff. Auntie Sophia and I often go to the canal. She says that if you went down it and into the river, then into the bay, you'd be on your way overseas. I wonder what year we're going to go to next. We went back in time by 10 years. 1968, another 10 years back. And I think we already know this girl. I think we might have met her here. but she was a grown-up girl. My name's Sophia, and this is my place. I'm 10. Baba's just painted our house blue. He comes from Greece, and he says lots of houses on his island were this colour. I think it's really pretty. I live with Mama and Baba and Marula and Paul McCartney. I've got a big brother called Michaelis, but he's a soldier in Vietnam. Mama lights candles to pray that he comes home soon and isn't hurt. This is me and Paul McCartney. Marula reckons John Lennon's the best, but I like Paul. So Paul McCartney is a singer in a band from the 1960s, but Sophia has named her pet budgie Paul McCartney after a famous singer. Have you named any of your pets at home after someone famous? Before Michaelis went away, we had a goodbye party, and he invited a girlfriend. She looked a bit left out because all of us were speaking Greek mostly. Michaelis looked weird in his new haircut. He didn't want to go, but he said the law said he had to. I wish that war would stop. This is a map of my place. Marula works at the milk bar. I put messages in bottles and send them down the canal. Have you ever done that? Put a message in a bottle? And sometimes when I want to think about things, I go up the big tree. Oh, there's that big tree again. In the statue yard. So not McDonald's. There are more people in the street now because of the flats, but they don't seem to have any kids. So the house in each page of the book is the same house. But over time, different people are living in this house. And as we go back in time, the neighbourhood is changing as well. 1958. I think we know this person too already. This is my place. My name's Michaelis. But at school, I say it's Mick. I'm 11. I was born on Kalymnos, but my parents moved here because there wasn't enough work on our island. Baba used to be a sponge diver, but now he drives a taxi. Mama sews shirts at home, so she doesn't learn to speak English much. I've already got a sister called Marula, and now I've got a new one called Sophia. You'd think at least one of them could have been a boy. After Sophia got christened, we had a party. Baba and I had to make a fence so no one would tread on the new grapevine. Sometimes I think there are more Greek people around here than there are on Kalymnos. This is a map of my place. Pop and Mrs. Malcolm next door have got a television, and sometimes they let me go in and watch it. Up near the depot there's a big tree, and I play Tarzan. That and Zorro are my favourite shows. Sometimes at the end of the day, our family goes for a little walk beside the canal, like we used to do around the harbour back on Kalymnos. It's pretty dirty, and there aren't any cafes or anything, but Mama says if you shut your eyes, you can pretend it's the Aegean. That's the sea that's around the area in Greece that they came from. This is me and my silkworms. They don't have names. I feed them on mulberry leaves. Their silk is soft and golden. So there's the big tree there. It's in a truck depot in 1958. In 1968, it was in a statue yard where they made statues and fountains for people's gardens. In 1978, it was in a car yard. And at the start of the story with Laura, it was at McDonald's. So the place has changed a lot. Something else I've noticed so far in the story is that each of the children that we've met have talked about a pet that they have. Each of the children that we've met have also talked about a family celebration that they've had. Let's go back in time a little bit further. 1948. My name's Jen, and this is my place. Oh, so someone new. We haven't met Jen before. I'm 8.5. I live with Mum and Grandpa and Auntie Bridie, and now there's my new dad. My real dad's dead. He went to the war before I was born, so I never even saw him. But Mum says I've got his hair. When Mum married my new dad, we had a party. Uncle Paddy and Uncle Cole came, and Miss Miller from next door. Miss Miller's going to be 90 next year. My new dad's got a car, and it's green. This is a map of my place. Mum says when she was a kid, there used to be heaps more shops. They're knocking down the haunted house, but Miss Miller yelled at them and made them promise not to touch the big tree. Oh, so the big tree is in the garden of an old house that's just been knocked down in 1948. She told them, I've got a swing in the big tree, and at the bottom of the street there's a canal. The council's built a fence, but it always seems to get holes in it. Sometimes I fish down there, but I never catch anything. This is me and Soxy. Dad says we might move out to the western suburbs soon and get a house with a big yard all around it. But I think Soxy would hate it. He likes how it smells here. Right, so we met a few new people in this page. I saw Auntie Bridie and Uncle Cole in the story and Miss Miller. I wonder if we'll meet any of them again as we go further back in time. 1938. I think we're going to. This is my place. I'm Cole. I'm almost 11. In my house there's Pa and Declan and Bridie and Kath and Jack. My ma got pneumonia when I was little, and Paddy's up country somewhere looking for work. Miss Miller next door is kind of like family too. When Kath and Jack got married, she gave them her piano. The night the Thompsons got evicted, it was like a party in the street. The bailiffs had stuck all their things out on the footpath and boarded up the house, so Mrs. Thompson knocked down the fence and built a big fire, and everyone bought a pot of stew or some spuds or something, and when we'd finished eating, Pa got out his fiddle. Fiddle's another word for a violin. It didn't seem awful then, but the next day they went away to the unemployed camp, and we never ever see them anymore. So this part of the story is happening in a very sad part of Australian history called the Great Depression, when a lot of people didn't have enough food to eat and a lot of mums and dads didn't have any jobs. This is a map of my place. Pa and Declan got put on relief work to turn the creek into a canal. So remember that at the very beginning of the story, Laura's family thought that it might have been a creek in the olden days. And here we're just finding out about when the canal stopped being a creek and was turned into a canal. When my mate Tomo still lived here, we nicked some wood from the old house and built a fort in the big tree, so the house was still standing there. And we used to swim in the canal when our parents weren't around. But now there's no one to muck about with. This is me and Bessie. She laid her eggs in my billy cart, and I can't use it for my paper run. I hope they hurry up and hatch. So Cole's got a paper run, a bit like Kieran and Saxon in the tram to Bondi Beach. I wonder if this part of the story is set at a similar point in time to the tram at Bondi Beach. 1928. My name's Bridie, and this is my place. I'm 7. I was born in Dublin, but Pa and Mama left because there wasn't much work. Now Pa reckons jobs are getting hard to find here too. The rest of my family is Paddy and Declan and Kathleen, and now Colin. Pretty sure that's Cole from 10 years later. Mama says he was a surprise. Pa and Paddy and Declan all work at the brickworks. Dec had to put his age up because he's only 13. Wow, and so he goes to work every day and he's only 13. I don't have a pet, But Kath and I look after Cole in the afternoon because Mama cleans at the flats. We put him in the pram and bounce him along the creek track till he goes to sleep. I wish the creek was clean enough to swim in. So it's even dirty back in 1928. This is a map of my place. Last year they put in the poles, so now our lights are electric. It's really exciting living here because the aerodrome's just nearby and sometimes aeroplanes fly over. I climb up the big tree and wave to the pilots. Mama says we're lucky here because we've got good neighbours. Miss Miller, oh, there's Miss Miller again, lets Kath and me play her piano. And if we catch Henry's bus, he won't let us pay. The Thompsons on the other side have got a wireless. That's a radio. Lorna Thompson's my best friend. We had a party last St Patrick's Day. He's the saint of Ireland, and we all wear green for him and sing and dance. Pa got a bit sad because he was missing home, so Mama invited the next doors in to cheer him up. So there's that big tree in the map again. And the canal's a creek here. 1918. We're only going to read a couple more of these because we'll stop and read the next bit the following week. This is my place. Mum calls me Bertie, but Eddie and all the blokes at the hospital call me Champ. I'm 9. I think this is a whole new family again. I don't remember hearing about somebody called Bertie before. Let's see what we find out. My brother Eddie's only got one leg, but he's still great at cricket. He and the blokes sometimes let me play with them down by the creek. I live with Mum and Eddie and my sister Ev, and we let the front room to Miss Walkley from church. Dad died at Gallipoli. Miss Walkley says that's something to be proud of, but I reckon it stinks. He was a great spin bowler. This is me and Gert. We got her to help with the war effort. This is a map of my place. Mum works in the kitchen at the hospital, and when Ev comes home from the factory, she puts on her VAD dress and goes over there too. I've got a tree house in the big tree. Mum says we might have to move to the country because we can't afford to live here now, but I don't want to. So here's the big tree. This time it's in the grounds of a hospital, I think it's an old house probably that's being used as a hospital during the war for the soldiers that come back. On the day the war ended, people danced in the street and blokes hugged each other on the lawn. But Mum started crying. Then Miss Miller cried. Then Mr. Miller even cried because their Tom and Fred won't be coming home either. So I did some stilt walking on Eddie's crutches and I made them laugh. 1908. It's starting to change a lot in the picture now. I've noticed it's a bit like our little house in the country book. I can see some animals grazing, maybe some cows here in the picture. I can also see a lot more green open space than I can when Laura's living in the house. So 1908. My name's Evelyn and this is my place. You know who I think this is? I think this is Bertie's older sister, Ev, that he talked about in his page. I'm 10. We moved here because it's close to the city for Father to get to the bank. Mother teaches music at the college, but of course Eddie and I go to the ordinary school. Oh, there's Eddie, who was in the war. On the way home, we always wait near the petrol pump on Mueller's Corner in case a motor car stops. Father says the main road will be tarred soon, and of course there'll be even more traffic. Of course, Eddie pesters Father about when we will get a motor car, but you'd have to be rich as anything for that. This is me and old Ned. He used to pull a horse bus, but Mr. Mueller put him out to pasture when the trams went electric. He says poor Ned just couldn't keep up. Last cracker night, all our street had a bonfire down near the creek. We got crackers from the Chinese shop. Mr. Mueller said it reminded him of old times. This is a map of my place. On weekends, I play caves under the big tree. Mr. Mueller says when he was a boy, a dragon lived across the creek. When I was little, I used to believe him. So just like at the earlier part of the story, we get a description of the person in this part of the story's pet, some information about their house and who they live with, a map, and some talk about a celebration that they've had as a family. "1898. I think we're going to spot someone here with a name we haven't met before too. This is my place. My name's Rowley. I'm 8. My mum and me, we rent the upstairs front room. Auntie Addie's got the middle room and Miss Singer's got the back. Mum works at the laundry with Auntie Addie. She's not really my auntie, but I call her that. Downstairs there's Mr. Merry. He does photographs, but on weekends he has an ice cream cart and he lets me and Tommy Mueller help him. Tom lives next door. His auntie's got a bicycle. This is a map of my place. The big tree belongs to the posh school, but I climb it anyway. A bit down the creek it turns into a canal, and there are barges. Before my dad went away, he helped build it. Mum says he just couldn't find any more work, and one day he might come back. Once a month, Mr. Merry has a party. It's called the Labour Party, and it's just grown-ups sitting in his room and talking. Miss Mueller goes, but Mum and Auntie Addie don't. Mr. Merry gives Tom and me a shilling to nick up to the pub and bring them back some beer. So a shilling's some really old-fashioned Australian money. He lets us keep the change. This is me and Ned Kelly. Oh, I think we've met this horse before though. He's the front horse on Mr. Mueller's bus. Mr. Mueller reckons you've got to be an outlaw to beat the new trams. I'd like to be a tram driver when I grow up, but most people round here make bricks, so maybe I will too. Mr. Merry reckons every brick in every house tells a story. Oh, so the brickworks we've been talking about through the story. And we've seen some changes to transport here, just like what we were talking about in some of the books we've already read this term. Last one that we're going to read today, and the rest of the book will be for next week. 1888. So we've gone back 100 years from when we met Laura. My name's Victoria, and this is my place. I'm nearly 11. My father is a builder, and he built our house. So this is the first page in the story that the house that all these other people have lived in has actually been on this particular spot. So he built our house, and Father and Mother and Wesley and Charles and May and I are the first people ever to live here. Father built the next door house too for the Muellers, and now he's started 2 more houses on the other side. Our house is the biggest. We've got 3 bedrooms upstairs, and downstairs there's a parlour and a dining room, then the breezeway, and then the kitchen. We've even got tap water. Mother says it's like a dream come true, but sometimes Father looks worried. This is a map of my place. Mother reckons you get sick if you even look at the creek, but Father says it'll get better soon when they finish making the sewerage. Do you know what sewerage is? That's having toilets and things that flush inside your house and carry the waste from your house away. In the olden days, people didn't have sewerage systems or septic tanks, so it was a bit of a different world in that regard as well. Sometimes I play on the swing in the big tree, but the Owen girls don't talk to me. As if I'd care. The hotel's just changed its name because of the centenary. Mother won't even let me walk on that side of the road. We're all in the Temperance League. That means they don't believe in having any alcohol in their house. This year, Australia had its 100th birthday. We went to the centennial picnic with the Muellers in their horse bus. Miss Mueller works in town at the telephone exchange and she catches the train to work. Mother says ladies don't have jobs, but I want to be something when I grow up. This is me and Squawker. Sometimes he gives you a real fright. Once he made the Dunny Can Man drop everything. All right, that's where we're going to leave it for our first week of My Place. I look forward to reading you the second half of the book next week. Thanks for listening.